feeling us about what medications they are taking, their goals in our work, where do they see themselves when they are fully recovered, so they can start creating that space of hope. Because a lot of them, they don't even know what that means. Like, so start thinking a little bit about that, and we sit here and we get to know each other. I talk more specific questions they are not comfortable writing down before getting to know me, and they have an opportunity to ask questions too. So with that information in hand, knowing a little bit about their background, spiritual, ancestors, family, cultural, everything, health, history, I create a program for each student. So I create a specific series that they will learn step by step, and we write down together. Now they make their drawings so they can take home. So we shake hands on agreeing that we are going to meet once a week here or twice a week, but they have to practice at home at least 3 times a week.
Oh, that's great.
Otherwise, they are wasting their money, I'm wasting my time. And I'm very strict about that. I fire students with no shame, because if they're not ready, they're not ready.
Right.
So that's, of course, sometimes some students, if they don't do that, there is issues for us to work with, and that's where sometimes the healing takes place. Now working this, why the hesitation to do that. When that's the case, then we talk a little bit more about that, and we walk the student through that. So I created programs, so there is that structure there in my work, but every day is a different day. So they come here being stressed from school or from work, or there is acute digestive issue going on, and they are extremely gassed, or they feel gross about everything in the body. So we work with what's going on. So if they come completely constipated, we teach some postures that are going to help the person with that. So it varies. That's why the beauty of being able to work with one person at a time.
No, it's great. It's fun, and I was thinking about clients that it is really not worked for, like who have been, maybe you thought, you're thinking it's going in a good direction, and then they just run, they flee. I mean, is there anybody that you've worked with that just something about it has gotten too much, or maybe they've just stopped coming, or any way that you think it gets too close to something? Because I feel like that can happen anytime. I think with clients that we're working with, there's also a lot of fear, I think, about approaching what's real.
One thing that I've learned about the specific population of eating disorders is that if there's anything that feels to me as a yoga therapist that's not right, I have to immediately address it. If I wait and let it just try to develop on its own, it will backfire, and they will drop the treatment, they'll sabotage it somehow. So I'm very direct with them. So I just bring an issue, and sometimes they'll say no, and I think all they wanted is for me to recognize the issue. Sometimes yes, there is a lot of issues, and let's talk about them. And sometimes they drop before I even have the opportunity to address. So of course it does happen. And it can be frustrated for me as a yoga therapist, because I see so much potential in each one of my students, and some of them and I understand they are not ready yet. It's not their time, and to respect their history, I think it's part of being a good partner of this. I understand that's not their time right now, and they may come back. I always connect in the beginning of the work. I always connect my light with their light. So we're not working from neurosis to neurosis, not from ego to ego. Connecting from light to light, and that creates a lot of possibilities. It really enlarges the possibilities.
I think that's true. I mean, I have a client who teases me that I'm her unicorn. I said, what does that mean? And, kind of almost like, and I think this is that part of her that has such a hard time with being hopeful and looking at what's possible, and sort of like almost teasing me that, well, you're too in magic land or something about, it's going to be all wonderful. But I don't feel like it's like that either, but I think if we can't hold that space for possibility, and that light. I love the way you said it. That's beautiful. Then how can I do that? I think they're coming to us to kind of find that again.
They don't believe in healing anymore. They don't live in recovery, even though they are coming to work.
Right. I know. I always think about, recovery or discovery. I think of it much more as discovery in a way, right? Because sort of like, hopefully you're going to be somebody so much more when you kind of move beyond.
And they are. Yeah. This population is so smart. I mean, beyond smart. That's the other two. You cannot work with this population if you cannot work on the same level intellectually. They have to be stimulated intellectually all the time. So it's true. It's a very, very interesting, challenging, rewarding population. And you asked me before we started recording why I chose this specific field. When I was about to move to the US, I decided I wanted to do a master's degree on some area of yoga therapy to explore it deeper. And coming to Boston, such a great place to be studying. So I was doing research. I was interested in digestive healing because yoga is so good on that. In yoga, the first thing is to have a good, positive, working digestive system. So I was thinking of working something along these lines, knowing that the eating here in the US is not so great. And then I thought of, but I'm really interested also in mental health, and I have a sister who is a psychologist and a psychoanalyst, and a brother who is a medical doctor. So I was thinking, and we have interesting debates. So I was thinking that would be nice to combine some of those two realms. And I started to look into the literature, and I was shocked when I found out how little help eating disorders population have. It's no wonder they are so discouraged. There is some hope in the bulimic symptoms. They say the cognitive behavioral therapy is helpful. There is a lot of controversy, but especially with the population who suffers from anorexia nervosa, there is nothing. So I said there is room for help there. Because I think, and at the same time in my yoga studio in Brazil, I saw where I also worked, I was seeing 30 students each week for individual sessions also. I had some groups, but mostly individual. I had a few of them with eating disorders, some models, some dancers, and the results were astonishing. They were really working well. People who had tried everything under the sun, and I always encourage them to keep therapy together. That's very important. Yoga therapy is not a substitute. Yoga therapy is not a substitute for therapy. It's all a partnership. There is usually a treatment team behind this, and yoga is one of the technologies that is part of that, that composes that mosaic.
I just felt like there was clearly a need. A whole,
because they are a lot in their heads, and they need a therapy to help them to detangle that, and then the yoga to help to process that into the body. We do some of that here.
Well, I'm trying to think. I had some other questions. What else do you want to let me know about what you do, or what feels important about it that would be good for my 10 or so students to know, who are learning about all the different technologies and things that would resonate for them?
I think something that's important, I feel it's my duty to clarify, is that yoga now is so popular. I'm still getting used to it. I'm not used to be the popular kid on the block. Because when I started learning yoga, I wouldn't even share with I was a teenager then, 14 years old. I wasn't cool if I told my friends that I did yoga. They didn't even know what that was. So now it's so popular, and I think it's great. But just with the population with eating disorders specifically, I think it's very important to create some awareness that not all yoga is good for this population. In fact, one of the articles, I remember when I was choosing which theme to work on my thesis, I came across this article called Yogarexia.
Oh my gosh.
Published in a British newspaper. And talking about how a lot of people were using yoga as a means to
purge.
Exactly. Now to really self-hate and abuse the body.